Hello everyone, welcome. So it looks like just yesterday night they released the new expansion, Mythical Island. So before the meta develops, probably within the next 2 weeks, I just wanted to go ahead and see if I can make some predictions on how good these cards would be in the competitive landscape, particularly in random battles. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my thoughts, my preemptive thoughts on each of these cards, and let's take a look at them. I already went ahead and reviewed these cards ahead of time just so that I could be prepared, and some of them were a little bit hard to interpret, but I think I have a pretty good idea now where these cards might stand. So the first pair would be Execute and Executor. These are both new variants. This card is pretty much the grass type's Melmetal. Psychic will do 120 damage if the opponent has at least 2 energy attached. So that's really good, right? If the opponent has even 1 more energy attached, that's more damage than Melmetal is already doing, which is really good. The only drawback is that it doesn't have that hard coat ability, but you still have support from Erica, so that's really good. I think this card would probably land at like high B, just like as opposed to Melmetal, which is like low B in my opinion. So I'm pretty excited for this card. I think it'll be really good. This variant of Execute is not really good to use with the other variants of Executor, right? Because you only need like 1 energy for it to work. But with this variant of Executor, I think it would be really crucial. So the next one here is Celebi EX. Actually, this card is going to be really nutty. So basically, it does 50 base, and then you get to flip a coin for each one for each energy that you have. So you have once you use the move, I believe that's 2 coins already, right? That's a 50% chance to draw to get that other 50 damage, and then a 25% chance to do 100 damage. That's like a Kangaskhan, I think, and then it just gets better from there. This card is really luck based, but even if you just hit 1 heads when you have 2 energy, that's 100 damage, right? That's already better than Starmie. It's already better than Pikachu, and it just gets better from there. And it has support for with the Erica, right? The healing, which comes in handy. Erica and 2 potions would be 90 HP healed. That's really good. I think this card would probably be in S tier. We'll see though, because of the luck based component. I don't know, not too sure, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if I see it in S tier. So the next 3 are Snivy, Servine, and Serperior. This Pokemon is really interesting. It took me a while to interpret the ability. It's kind of like Magneton. You kind of have to hang it in the back in the bench drill, and then once your active Pokemon or another Pokemon has energy, you would pretty much use that Jungle Totem ability. So for every 1 energy your other Pokemon have, you get 2 energy to this Pokemon, so that's good. So it looks like if you have 2 energy on another Pokemon, then Jungle Totem will give you 4 for Serperior, and then fully powering up that Solar Beam. Solar Beam is really weak at 70 for 4 energy, but you're not supposed to kind of draw any energy of your own on this card. You're supposed to use Jungle Totem to power up this card, so that's kind of the idea there. Definitely better than Magneton, but it's a stage 2. I'm not too sure how good it'll be. and Solar Beam doesn't do a whole lot anyway. It's just like 70 damage per turn, and you have to wait until stage 2 to get it. I don't think this card will be all that great, but we'll see, right? I think it may probably fall into C or B tier. Okay, Shiinotic, it looks like it's a better variant of Frostmoth. I think you get that extra 10 damage with Flickering Spores to put the opponent to sleep, so that's pretty good. Frostmoth isn't that great to begin with, and I'm not too sure how well this card will do. So we'll just have to see. I think it would probably fall between C or B tier. The Miles is interesting. It's the variant of Lapras regular. For 4 entire energy, you get 90 damage with Energy Whip. The bad part is that you don't have a Misty to combo it with, so that's the really bad part about this card being grass, right? You have Erica, but 100 HP isn't a whole lot. By the time you get to 4 energy, your opponent is probably going to one-hit KO you. It looks like Serperior combos well with Dhelmise, but I can't see this card doing all that great. I don't think it'll do really bad because of that Erica, so I'd probably give it like C tier. And Shiinotic, I'd probably give it like a high C tier as well. So these are the new variants of Ponyta and Rapidash. They're both very luck based, right? It'd be fun to play them in a deck that gets really lucky and hits really hard, but I just don't think they're that consistent. They're as consistent as they need to be meta. Rising Lunge requires 2 energy and you only have 100 HP. It's not really good. It ranges from being absolutely terrible to pretty decent. So I'm not too sure about these cards. I'd probably give them like a C tier, and being weak to water isn't really that good because I think, you know, Misty will probably still be meta. So here's Magmar, the new variant. This one is pretty bad. Fire Blast doing 80 damage, but you have to discard 2 whole energy. That's really terrible. They should have just made it discard 1. The only reason why this card wouldn't be F tier is because Moltres EX exists. Otherwise, this card would be terrible, and I would never advise anyone to use it. So I think I would give it a C tier. Larvesta and Volcarona. Larvesta hits hard, but it requires 2 energy to use the combustion, which is only 30 damage. That's not good at all, right? You really want to play Volcarona for that Volcanic Ash. It acts as a Zebstrika, but it does 80 damage, and you have to discard 2 energy. That's really bad too. 80 damage isn't that much for 3 energy. The only thing with this is that, you know, you can get lucky and maybe, you know, snipe some Pokemon on your opponent's back bench throw. Otherwise, this Pokemon wouldn't be that good. I think Volcanic Ash is really good only in niche situations, and only because Moltres exists, I'll give this card like a C. Preemptively, of course. I don't know how good it'll actually be, but that's what I predict. So Salandit and Salazzle, the new variants. You have a 1 energy Venoshock. It does a little bit less damage too than the regular Venoshock. Not very good, very niche. You don't really poison something and then switch out to a stage 0 Pokemon. That's not something you do, especially not one that has low HP like that. Maybe you could like poison something and then bring in and then your Pokemon gets KO'd and then you bring in the Salandit, but then it's like at that point you should be evolving to Salazzle. And this one actually does the poison. Maybe it'd be better if the abilities were just reversed. I don't know. I kind of understand why they went that route. They wanted to, you know, make a Pokemon that was more unique. Poison Claws does 30 damage, which isn't a lot, but it only has 1 energy, which is pretty good, right? I'd probably give this card a C tier. I really do like poison, and I like how it's only 1 energy, so you can get it off as quickly as possible, and that's what you want from poison. But the HP pool is really low, so I think this card would probably fit into like the C tier. Here's the new variants of Magikarp and this new Gyarados EX, which looks really cool. Magikarp has Abra's teleport ability. You basically get a free switch, right? You don't have to use your X speed, and you leap out, you switch into your bench draw, and you get to keep the energy, which is good. Rampaging Whirlpool is definitely better than Hyper Beam. It does 40 more damage, and it has a negative condition attached to it, whereby a random energy from your bench will be discarded along with the opponent's. So a positive and a negative there. You could definitely, play around your negative, which is good, right? 140 attack is really good. You can one-hit KO Mewtwo with a Giovanni. The only problem is getting to that 4 energy. Misty will definitely help, but even then, it's still gonna be a little bit tricky. I think this card would probably land somewhere around A tier. Here's the next variant of Vaporeon. The main thing about this card is its ability Washout. It kind of acts like a Lieutenant Surge. You can just change, you can just switch the energy from your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So this kind of enables you to play more defensively if you want, kind of preserving your energy in the back row, which is good. I don't really think it combos with anything at this point, not that I could see. And Wave Splash is terrible. You're not really going to use it at all. It doesn't even heal you like the other bubble move does. So I can't imagine this card being that good, and it has 2 retreat, which isn't that great either. I'd probably give it like a C. Maybe this one's like our first F. I'm not too sure. Okay, so Finneon and Lumineon. Aqualiner basically does what Seadra does, right? I think it does it with more efficiency because it only requires 2 energy. So we'll see how this one pans out. I don't know, that 2 energy for only 50 damage isn't that great, and obviously it's only good in the early game where your opponent's Pokemon haven't evolved yet. So I'm not too sure, but it doesn't need any retreat cost. I didn't notice that before. It doesn't have a big HP pool at all, and it requires an evolution to work. I'm not too sure about this one. I think it would probably fall between like F to C tier. Here's Dreadnought and Choodle. Dreadnought has a pretty big HP pool for being only stage 1. That's the good thing there. It has a really big energy requirement, and so does Choodle. So this card is going to be offline for a while until you can get it to work. It has the ability to discard a random energy from the active Pokemon, but only if you hit the 50-50, right? So only half the time will it actually work, and the other half of the time you're just doing crunch for 70 with 3 energy. That's terrible. That's really terrible. I think this card would fall between F to C tier, and the only reason why I'm sure it's not an F tier card is because Misty exists. So the next one is Cramorant at 80 HP, and it does a 60 move dive. It's kind of like Doug Trail. It prevents the opponent from doing damage. The bad thing is that he can just switch out. Oh no, I'm sorry. So it gives you a shield, which is good. You can still Sabrina it out, I believe. It says the effects of attacks. So I don't know if you can Sabrina this card out. Either way, it's not that good. 3 entire energy and you only get 60 damage. That's not good at all. This card would probably definitely fall between F to C tier. So the next few are the new variants of Pikachu and Raichu. With Pikachu, you get that little baby circle circuit. It does a maximum of 30, which isn't bad for 1 energy and a stage 0. But you need all those benched Pokemon, right? So you really have to make your deck suitable. You have to have a lot of basic Pokemon for this to work, which is also, you know, what you want to do for Pikachu EX. I think this card would be pretty solid. Doing 30 damage hits pretty hard with only 1 energy in the early game. I think this card would be probably like a solid B tier. And then there's the Raichu variant. Giga Shock is not like Thunderbolt. It doesn't discard your energy, which is really good. It acts like a little baby Blizzard. Maybe even a better Blizzard, because overall, does it do more damage? Blizzard does a maximum of 110, and this one does 100. So yeah, it is like a lesser Blizzard, but the good thing is that it's not an EX, so your opponent won't get 2 points off of KOing the Raichu. It does need 3 energy, which isn't that good, but at least now you have a good Magneton, another good Magneton target. I think it's pretty okay. It has a really good HP pool. By the time you have 3 energy, at least you can tank at least 1 hit, most likely. I think this card would be like a solid B tier. So the next one is the new Electabuzz variant. It's kind of like Blitzel, Zebstrika, with Thunder Spear, but it requires 2 energy and only does 10 more. That's horrible. That's really horrible, and it only has 70 HP. I can't see this card being any good. It'd probably fall between F and C tier. Okay, the next ones are Joltik and Galvantula. I really resent that they made a tarantula looking card in the game. Joltik does 30 damage with Bug Bite, which is really solid. This card is like a heavy hitter sort of card, different from Ekans and Arbok. Lecture Web does 10 more damage than Arbok's Corner, but with 20 less HP and 1 less retreat cost. I think that's a solid trade. I really do. So I gave Arbok a C tier. I think this card would be definitely like B tier. Dedenne, really terrible Pokemon. It has a really small HP pool, so you could knock it out in like 2 turns if your opponent goes second. You have to flip a coin for the ability to work, so it only works half the time. And if it doesn't work, you only get 10 damage. That's really terrible. And the opponent can just energy up his back row to prevent the paralysis from doing anything, and then he switches in and KOs you in 2 turns. Terrible card. I'd probably say this is like an F tier card. Okay, so here's our Mew with just a different art. Still not that good, side report. I don't think it'll be meta. And then there's Mewtwo EX. This card is really interesting. Genome hacking lets you use any of your opponent's active attacks. So you really want to use an attack that has a lot of energy, right? Because it'll be really good. You don't want to be stuck with a low energy attack like Stomp, because that wouldn't be a good trade. So this card's usefulness depends on your opponent, which is a factor that makes it kind of inconsistent. You can combo this with the new supporter card, which takes it out of the active spot and heals it up, so that's good. But we'll have to see, I think, how the meta develops further. I think this card would probably land in A tier. I can't imagine it being S tier. And then next is Sigilyph. It's like Meowth in that it does 10 damage and draws a card. Instead you get more HP. Not good, honestly. That big HP pull in the beginning of the game could probably tank you like 3 hits or last you 3 turns. But you know, you leave yourself really vulnerable to a red card. And this card, drawing it in the late game, only does 10 damage. Like really, that's not going to do anything for you. Its card is only good in the early game. and hardly at that. So for that reason, I think it would probably be like F. Here's Elhim and Behegim. Having trouble pronouncing that. Mind Jack is really interesting. It does a total of 70 damage. You need your opponent to have benched Pokemon. It combines well with the new Flute card, where you can put a KO'd Pokemon back onto your bench deck. You can play around this card, right, by just not putting a whole lot of Pokemon on the bench deck, on your bench row, excuse me, and making this card bad. But Mind Jack, I think Mind Jack would be pretty good. It only requires 1 energy. That's really solid, right? And the 90 HP pull isn't too bad either. Only a 1 retreat cost too. This card looks really solid. I think it would be between like B and A. Here's Flabebe, Floette, and Florges. Kind of like a grass card, focusing on healing, except that you don't have that combo with the Erica, so there's the bad thing. Bloomshine only requires 2 energy, which isn't bad. It's gonna see pretty good use in the mid game, but not in the late game, because Bloomshine isn't gonna do a whole lot of damage in the late game, and you'll probably get 1 hit KO'd, making it so that the heal doesn't even matter at all. I don't think this card will be that good, only because of the fact that it's a stage 2. So we'll see. It'd probably land between like F and C tier. Here's Swirlex, Fairy Wind at 20 damage, and Slurpuff, Magical Shot at 60 damage for 2 energy. That's really bad. It's like Swoobat and the old Salazzle. That's just bad. That's not what you want. That little bit of more HP in exchange for less damage. That's not what you want in this meta, and I still think this will be a damage oriented meta. So for that reason, I think it would be probably an F tier Pokemon. Here are the new variants of Mankey and Primeape. These are really interesting, particularly Mankey, because you can annihilate your opponent within like turn 2 if you get lucky, right? Focused hit, and especially with the Giovanni, can probably 1 hit KO almost every stage 0 card in the game. That's crazy. You have a 50% chance to do that. And even if you go turn 1, right, and you're not able to use that focus hit, you can evolve it. You can evolve the Mankey into Primeape and use that Punch. I like how they just called it Punch for 1 energy. That's really good. These cards are dangerous. I think they'd probably fall between like B and A tier for sure. Here are the new variants of Geodude, Graveler, and Golem. Geodude is horrible. It doesn't have a 1 energy retreat, which is the biggest issue for me. I don't really care that you can't use Light Punch. At least you get a little bit more HP so that you can survive. Graveler is definitely much better than the old variant. Lunge Out being at 40 damage for 2 energy means that you can at least use it, at least. Unlike, I think, Rollout, which required 3 energy. That was really terrible. And the new Golem also looks a little bit better. Guard Press gives you -30. So it gives you like a little shield after use. I'd rather have the damage, to be honest. 120 damage for 4 energy isn't too bad. And I'm saying that only because it has the potential to be comboed with Brock. So that's the only reason. I think this card would probably land between B and A tier. It has a pretty massive health pool too. It can take a Mewtwo hit, so that's really good. Yeah, probably between like a B and a lower A tier card. We'll see though. Okay, so here's our next EX card, Aerodactyl. They made Ode Amber better, so that you can now put it on the active spot at game start. That's so much better, right? Because before you were delayed a turn because it was an item card, you couldn't put it on the active spot at game spot. That the active spot on game start, excuse me, that was a really big drawback to the card. But Land Crush at 2 energy does 80 damage. That's really good. This card is going to be a monster in the early game. It comes in and it sweeps really well, really efficiently, like Pikachu and like Starmie. It does less damage. It does 10 less damage, which is a big deal. But in exchange, you get that ability, Primeval Law. It makes it so that your opponent can't evolve their active Pokemon. That's really good. You play around this card by just evolving your bench, but at the very least, it makes this card a really good tank in the early stages of the game, because you won't have that power you need for your active Pokemon to really do a lot of damage. 140 HP is better than Misty. It's better than Starmie, excuse me, and Pikachu. It's really solid. It's like a Marowak EX, and you get that guaranteed 80 damage. Not bad, not bad. I think this card would probably fall around A tier. I don't think it'll go any lower than A tier, and because of its ability, it may even go to S tier. We'll see though. Marshadow, not very good at all. 80 HP is really low. Revenge works like Mankey's Primeape's Fight Back, except that you don't get to keep it. You can only use it once, and probably only once in the entire game, and then it goes back to being 40 damage for 2 energy, leaving you really vulnerable. That's terrible. I think this card is really bad. I think it'll end up in F tier. So Joiner, good HP and a lot of energy for 90. So it's like a Chansey that does 30 more damage. Still not that good, to be honest. That's a lot of commitment. 3 energy for only 90 damage, and he probably won't be able to like one hit KO anything. I don't see this card being all that great, and to make it worse, it requires a 3 energy retreat. I think it'd probably fall between like F and C tier. Here are the new variants of Coughing and Wheezing. The vision is not good. It's like a Nidorian, the female one, puts a random Coughing from your deck onto your bench. It does nothing if you already have the other Coughing in your hand, or if you drew it at game start. So that's not that good. I'd rather take the damage. Wheezing. Smokescreen kind of acts like a minimize from the video game. I don't know if you guys remember. Basically, it's a 50% chance to let your opponent miss. So it's not good. 50% of the time, it'll be only a 50 damage move for 2 energy. That's really terrible. I don't see why you would play this variant rather than the other one. The other one is just so much better. I don't think these cards are good at all. I'd probably like say they're around F to C tier, which is really sad, but you know, it is what it is. Here are the next cards: Purloin and Leopard. This does what Farfetch does, but with less efficiency. You get a little bit more health, but in exchange you have to meet that stage 1 evolution. That's not good. That's really not good. I don't think this card will be good at all. I think this is another really bad dark type card, and I think it'll fall between like F and C tier. The next few are stage 2 evolutionary cards: Venipede, Whirlipede, and Scolipede. Not that good. It's like a muck that requires another evolution, and you get 10 more HP for it. I can't imagine these cards being all that great. Venoshock wasn't great to begin with. At least now it only requires 2 energy, but you need that other evolution for it to do anything. So you have to pray for good luck. I think this will be like a C tier card. So this is the only dragon we get in the new expansion. Drudgian? I have trouble pronouncing that. It only has 100 HP. And the idea is that you let this Pokemon take damage with Rough Skin, and you do 20 damage back. It's kind of like Poliwrath's counterattack. I think it works just like that, to be honest. But instead, you get that 50 less HP. And the good thing about this card is that it's a stage 0. You don't need to evolve it. Dragon Claw being at 90 for 3 energy isn't that great. And there's also that other condition that you need a fire and a water for it to work. I don't think this card will be good. I think this card needed a little bit more HP so that the rough skin can actually do something. I think this will probably be like a C tier card. Really nice looking card though. Here are the new variants of Pidgey. This Pidgey is definitely better than the last one that only did 10 damage. And this Pidgeotto is incredibly terrible. I don't know why you would ever play this. Wing attack 50 damage for 3 entire energy is terrible, like F tier. But then there's Pidgeotto EX. This card is crazy. 170 HP is massive, and you get 140 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. You can combo it with Flute. That's really good. That's really good. It's only good in the late game, obviously. But by then, 140 damage is pretty solid. You can one-hit KO a Mewtwo with the Giovanni. I think this card will probably be like A tier. I think this is a really good card. And correct me if I'm wrong. Oh no, I forgot about. I thought this was the only stage 2 EX, but I forgot about the Charizard, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle starters. Here's our next normal type, Tauros. I really wanted them to include something to fight back against the EX cards. Fighting Tackle isn't gonna be that great, I think. It requires 3 whole energy. You get 120 damage, which is really good. Still not enough though to KO any EX except for Pikachu. That's not good at all. And only 100 HP. Not that great. I think Fighting Tackle should have been 2 energy, but then maybe it would have been too good against the EX Pokemons. If your opponent is not playing an EX, then this is just a dead card. A terrible F tier, the worst card in the game. If your opponent is playing an EX, which he probably is, it's probably like an 80% chance he is, this card is okay. It'd probably be around like F to C tier, which is sad and unfortunate. The new variant of Eevee theoretically does infinite amount of damage if you keep getting tails, which is really funny. If you don't get a single tails, then it doesn't do any damage, which is sad, like Lickitung. But the good thing is that it only requires 1 energy. I think this card can be good. It's not very consistent though, so we'll just have to see. It'd probably land between like F and C tier. Chatot is not good at all. You shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw a card for each of your opponent's hands. So there's a lot of conditions there. One, you have to hope that when you use this ability, you don't have really good cards that you shuffle out. And then you have to hope that your opponent has a lot of cards in hand. So not very good. I don't think this card will combo with anything. It's kind of just like a meme card and it doesn't do any damage. I think this card is as good as Porygon, to be honest. I'd probably give it like an F tier if I'm honest. Okay, this is the new Old Amber. Like I said, it acts like a basic Pokemon now that I believe you can put into the active spot at game start. That's really good. Mythical Slab is not that good at all. Well, actually it is. I misread it. It acts like a Pokeball for Psychic type. That's really good. Wow. It increases your drawing efficiency, makes everything more consistent. If it's not a psychic type, then it gets put on the bottom of your deck and you don't have any control over that. Maybe except with Porygon. I think this card is going to be like an auto include for Psychics. I think this card is going to be a very dangerous card, probably like an S tier auto include. So we'll see. Okay guys, so next we have Pokemon Flute. This one is a really interesting one. For some reason it reminds me of Hypno's Lullaby. I don't know if you guys get that reference. What this does is puts a Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile back onto their bench, right? So first you have to get something KO'd and then it goes back onto the bench. Not useful in the early game because nothing gets KO'd, but it could pair well with some of the other Pokemon we've seen. So we'll see. It's a good idea to clog up the opponent's bench, right? It leaves them with less options in the future. As of right now, I don't think this card would be all that great. I think it'd probably be like a C tier. So the next one here is Blue. Blue is like a reverse Giovanni. Instead of doing 10 more damage, you take 10 less damage. I don't think it's going to be all that great because a potion just counters the Giovanni anyway. But you can use this Pokemon with like something that's full health and might have otherwise been one hit KO'd. So that's good. I don't think this card is as good as Giovanni, and I don't think this card is as good as Potion. It'd probably fall between like B and C. Budding Expeditioner. What this does is lets you put your Mewtwo EX in your active spot back into your hand. So it acts like a Koga. You have to sacrifice all those energy that you've sunk into it. You don't get them back, but in exchange you get to heal your Mew EX and prevent the opponent from getting a KO. So that's pretty good. I think it'd be paired well in. You'd probably see it in any Mewtwo EX deck. Probably like also an A or B tier card. Leaf, that's an interesting name for her. I didn't know her name was Leaf. During this turn, the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 2 less. That's really, really good. This card is going to be really dangerous. It acts like a 2x speed, right? And you can carry 2 of these in your deck, 2 supporter Leaf cards. Wow, imagine being able to retreat a 4 energy retreat card like Snorlax and Onix for free with 2x speeds and 1 Leaf. That's gonna be really good. This card is going to enable a lot of cards in this meta, I think. This card is a game changer. This card may actually be like an auto include. Definitely better than Giovanni, definitely better than Sabrina. I don't know if it's as good as Misty, but we'll see. I would still probably put this card as like a C tier. So with that, it looks like that's the end. These are just alternate card arts. Really nice looking. But that's the end, and we'll see how the meta develops, right? I think it's going to be a really interesting one. We have a lot of really cool, interesting new abilities. And a lot of new supporter and item cards that can be used in any deck. So that's really cool. I hope you guys stick around and join me for some more random battles in the future. And I hope you have a great day.